Welcome in, everyone, to Spiritual Roots Podcast with me, Misty. Today, I have with me my gal pal, Dawn. So happy to have her on. Dawn is a Leo, a wife, a mother, a daughter, a sister, a Gigi, a dog mom, a cat servant, a lifelong loner in a crowd, an empath. Dawn considers herself a child of the stars, a daughter of the moon, student of nature, keeper of Hecate's keys, and depending on your affinity for labels, you might call her a green witch and a pagan. Before she began plotting how to open up portals and working on summoning aliens to abduct her, Dawn spent almost 20 years running her own graphic design and marketing firm to ensure she never missed a moment for her kids, and now that her kids are grown, she is the CMO of a $90 million company whose mission aligns with her values and still allows her to unapologetically swear like a sailor. I love that, Dawn. Welcome on to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I just like to open it up. Is there anything that you'd like to add before we get into questions? I always like to ask, see if there's anything you'd like to say.
I feel like that pretty well covers the basis for me.
Okay. All right. So let's get into it. So what spiritual roots brought you to where you are right now?
Well, so that's an interesting path because, I was raised Catholic. My grandmother struggled most of her life with addiction to alcohol back in the day, diet pills. I guess somebody was telling me diet pills back in the day had like cocaine in them. So pretty serious stuff. And she found AA through the church. And when my father had kids, made him swear that we would be raised Catholic. And sure enough, he made sure we were. It's really funny because my parents are not like overly religious people, but, it was important to my grandmother. So my father honored that. And so I spent, my childhood learning, the practices of Catholicism. And, overall, it's really funny. Catholicism is one of those ones that people just kind of, you say that and they're like, oh, because there's a lot of hellfire and damnation depending on the church you went to. And the church that I went to was not like that at all. It was, I always felt like the message was benevolent. Maybe I wasn't listening because I was a little kid. I don't know. I just never really felt like that was a religion of kind of that. You always picture like nuns cracking you on the knuckles with rulers or something, but I never felt like that. But I didn't feel necessarily connected to it either. I just never really did. I did all of the sacraments and, all of that. And I just never felt like it wasn't that it didn't make sense. It wasn't that I couldn't believe in something higher. It just was, there was something missing for me. And, I knew it was important to my grandmother, so I tried to honor that. And I lost her, 2008. So after that's kind of when I really started to explore, or maybe didn't explore. Maybe I was just being 20 something. At the time I had a 2-year-old. I was a single mom pretty early at 23. And so I had a 2-year-old at that time. And, religion was one of those things that I had gone back and forth on. How was I going to raise my own child? And, I kind of always raised him with a really superficial belief of God and that respect and all of that. But at that time, it was a little overwhelming for me to try to think about bringing a 2-year-old to church and what kind of schedule that looks like as a single mom. So, and it was something that I kind of held in my heart because it was important to her, but never still felt connected to really. And, over the years, life gets busy. I met, my husband when my son was 6. Well, I shouldn't say that. I'd known him for years before that, but we got together when my son was 6. And he's not somebody who's religious at all. He is literally a member of Mensa, which if you don't know what that is, that's like the top 2% of intelligence on the planet. And I find that people with ultra high intelligence frequently will have challenges with religion for whatever reasons. And so, he and I have a lot to this day, still have a lot of really philosophical discussions about what happens next after this life, he's pretty convinced we live in the Matrix. Which is, I'm not here to say it's not plausible either. I mean, I think there's not necessarily an absolute when it comes to this stuff. I think two things can be true, in many of these cases. So anyway, we got together, and unfortunately, through actions that had happened before we were together, we weren't able to have a child together, which really, really put me in a tailspin. Because it was always something really important to me. And, it's still hard to talk about even now. But, I was in a deep, deep depression for like 3 years, really questioned my life. And, like, what does my life look like? Because this wasn't the plan. The plan was for me to, raise another kid. And, I have two stepkids who are wonderful, but, they were in their teens already when I got them, and they have a mom. And, it just wasn't the same. And it was a really dark, dark 3 years. And then in like 2019, I started to come out of it a little bit, and then quarantine struck in 2020. And that's when it really got wild because, everybody's locked down now. And I mean, I used to keep myself so busy with all of the kids' activities, like running them around from practices and picking them up and all of their performances and games and just, fundraising. And, I kept myself really busy, and boy, did COVID shut that down.
Yeah.
And suddenly there was no more running from anything I was feeling. And I had a friend who I had done work for. She was a customer of mine. And she was like, it's really funny. So many of my clients over the years had become such good friends of mine. And my friend Lisa, I had done a logo for her, and, we were friends on social media, and I saw that she was like losing all this weight, and she seemed really happy. Like she was, in such a good headspace. And I just reached out to her one day and I said, like, what's the trick? What's the secret? What are you doing? I was like, what's the miracle thing? And that like blew the doors off of everything. It was, I have all the free time in the world now and so much time to fall into that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And I sure did. And she said, I'm so glad you asked me. And she said, you're a light worker, and I said, I am? Like, I had no idea what that means, and at the time it was just, oh, that sounds like a nice thing to be. And she just shared with me a bunch of content, which is really what really expanded my mind. I started out listening to and watching and reading anything I could get my hands on by Joe Dispenza. He's incredible. He's a neuroscientist, and I mean, this is where like it ties back to my husband with the philosophical part of it, but the science, because it's all about neural pathways in your brain and energy and attracting what you want through your energy and your thoughts, and rewiring your brain to think more positively and attract the things that you want. And I highly recommend. You'll have a list in your show notes of all the stuff by him that I recommend, because he's got a lot of content out there, like a ton of content. And then there was a documentary that I had watched when my son was, I don't know if he'd been born yet or I was pregnant when it was called What the Bleep Do We Know?, which is all about quantum mechanics and quantum physics. And it really, really blows your mind open. And like I said, so during quarantine, I had plenty of time to learn about all this stuff and really fall into a rabbit hole. And it was completely life-changing for me. Like that was the stuff that I connected to, like with meditation and looking inward instead of to, I mean, not to say that I do. I believe in a creator, one source, but really understanding that one source also contains me and is within me. And I have to look within myself. And I had for so long been looking externally for the answer. And it was really like, I spent a lot of time on my lawn, putting my feet in my grass, sitting just in nature. I mean, I just sat there and watched nature for hours during this period of time, which, was, we also made some really cringy family TikToks also, but, there was, you need balance. But yeah, that was kind of when that blew wide open for me, was 2020. And from I've always in my life felt like I'm super powerful, and I never understood how or why. Like things happen for me
Mm-hmm.
or don't happen to me. Like some people would call it really good luck. I personally don't believe in luck. I think everything I have had or um, manifested, I've brought to myself. Like there was this crazy incident of it's just one of those crazy things. Like there's so many of these things. Like I won't even get into the story of like how I manifested our house. But like, when my son was really small, his father and I separated when he was like just before he turned 1. And I mean, his dad's, a really, really nice person, just not somebody that like we were not meant to be together. And it was really important to me to not have my son see a really unhealthy relationship because that's not what I wanted for him.
Mm-hmm.
And, we had kind of gone back and forth on separating. And then there was, I'd put my name in for this wait list for this low income housing that was super nice. It had just been built and there was like a very long wait list for it. And I somehow came up in it and I was supposed to submit my paperwork. I did all that. And back in the day, faxes were still a thing.
Yeah.
And there was, I was supposed to fax over all my final stuff that Friday and sign the papers on Monday. And his father had just begged and pleaded with me one more time to try again. We went and looked at a bunch of apartments over the weekend and we just fought the whole time. And it was just absolutely everything I didn't want my son to grow up in, you know, because he was never going to see the best parts of his parents.
Yeah.
If that were the case. And before I had left work on Friday, I sent a fax to the property manager saying, I'm really sorry. I'm not going to take the apartment. Please move to the next person on the list. I'm going to try to work things out with my son's dad. And I come in on Monday morning and just with this pit in my stomach about what have I just done? Like I lost this opportunity.
Yeah.
And I come up and I look at the fax machine and for no good earthly reason, the fax didn't go through. It just didn't. Yeah. I don't know. There's no reason to this day, like why it wouldn't have gone through. It was faxed from a place of business where we sent hundreds of faxes a day and it didn't go through. And just like that kind of divine protection that I have always felt like just, I don't know, it's really interesting to live it because I don't have any fear, which is something that, I talk a lot about with, my friends and, my friend Kristen has brought up many times about, like how I just will go do something. I'll just do it. Like I don't have any fear. I have no self-limiting beliefs, which is, like how I grew up. I have this dad who just, I watched him say and do things and just be so strong in his convictions about things. And I was like, yeah, I mean, if I want something, there's no reason I can't have it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was super fortunate to grow up in an upper middle class family. And I mean, I didn't grow up, I mean, I guess I grew up with a silver spoon in my mouth, depending on your perspective. But my family also made me work for the things that I wanted. I wasn't just handed those things. Like I had to do chores to earn them or, like pay my own way. Like I had to pay for my first car and my insurance and, but they gave me the means to be able to do those things. Like my dad got the loan for the car, but I had to pay it, And so I've never had any self-limiting beliefs. Like I can't do something. And actually it was really funny. I had a conversation with, Alicia, who was just one of your guests. One day I went in to talk to her about, I went to talk to Alicia about a sign for her business. And I walked in and she's just standing there and she starts just talking to me and starts pulling tarot cards, like just off a desk, like really casually. And I'm like, she just starts like reading me. And I was like, what's happening right now? And it was just too funny. And the other thing that I had going was like, I would run these like small business events that were like really well known. And like, there was a wait list to be at my events because I highly publicized them. They were well attended. And she was talking to me about doing that potentially too. And she just looked at me and she stopped and she said, I was told that you don't fail. And at the time I was like, yeah, I was like, yeah, I'm just really tenacious about things. And it was like a year later before I realized she was not talking about somebody like in the earthly realm. Like she got a message from somebody who was like, you don't fail. Like,
yeah. Who do you think that was from?
I don't know, it could have been my spirit team. I don't know. I'm not sure who it came from directly. It just was somebody told her that like I just don't fail, which was such an interesting. It was funny because it was like super flattering at the time. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I love that. Like my business has that reputation.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh wait, she wasn't. I mean, she was talking about my business, but it was like me. And so it was kind of funny because, again, I don't believe in luck. I am very tenacious about things that I want. I will sit and think things through before I ever move on them to make sure that like I see a way
Hmm.
forward. And it was even, it's funny, my boss tells me all the time, she's like, you're like the most decisive person I've ever met. Like you just know and you just go do the thing and there is nothing that like she's like, people will see a whole wall and you see like a beaded curtain and you just like plow through it. Like
Yeah.
there's no part of you that just has another gear that will fail. And it's interesting to live that life because it's exhausting at the same time because there's
Yeah.
so many things that interest me and I want to do this and this and this. And there comes a time when you have to kind of you have to really parse out your energy accordingly because it's pretty easy to burn yourself out with all of your ambition and thoughts and excitement. And yeah, and so like that's kind of been my path to where I am now. I have dozens and dozens of books on tarot and meditation, which I still struggle with meditation because I like am borderline narcoleptic. I'll just fall asleep.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I
so
don't think
like
that's
meditation.
uncommon, Don. I think
Yeah,
that
I mean, I
happens to a
just
lot of us.
so I guess that's good, right? Like you're
Yeah.
relaxed, but my mind is just it's one of those things that's tough for me to do. But I think I reach meditative states in other ways.
Mm.
Like listening. I listen to a lot of like frequencies, like healing frequencies or those kinds of things. Like YouTube has a bunch of them, and if you have Spotify, you can just punch in whatever frequency or thing you're going for, and I listen to it, and that's my mind kind of just I think churns through things and I'm super clear on thoughts. Like, if I'm trying to work through a problem, I will just what I'll do is I call it quiet time and
Yeah.
it's not really meditative. It's kind of like shower thoughts. Like, how you always have thoughts in the shower and then you never write them down and they're
Yeah.
gone again until the next time you shower or like in the car, same thing. Um, so I actually allot myself this time during the day. I sit at a table. I have my phone very far away from me, so I can't look at it. It's just playing like, whatever frequency that I feel like I need to use that day. And I'll
I
just
love
sit there
that.
with a notebook and like write down things and try to focus on, what's the next step in whatever thing that I need to do. Which is like, I think it's kind of meditative in a way.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely. If it puts you into another altered brainwave, that's absolute meditation.
Yeah, and I think that unplugging, right, which is like,
Hmm.
I think, we've become a society that's so connected to everything at all times and just knowing anything. Like, you have a thought and you're like, oh, I wonder about that thing. And then you just go Google it or whatever.
Yes.
And it's really uncomfortable to sit in a moment like that and not do it, right? Like, it's
Hmm.
everything in your body is just like, but I want to know it right now, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what we've gotten used to. And so, I'm not here to judge society on that, but it's real. And so it's like kind of forcing yourself into this really uncomfortable moment to just have to sit with your own thoughts and like plug ahead and,
Yeah.
you think back on like if you wanted to know something you had back in the day, you had to like
Yeah.
find the most recent
Encyclopedias.
encyclopedia.
We had to look them up.
Yeah. And I mean,
We didn't have
uh,
Google when we were kids.
no. And, like you're just like hoping it's the most recent thing. It's just
Right. I hope this
it's so
isn't from
funny to think about how our
1985.
generations, moved through,
Yeah.
it's transcended both sides of that, right? With the encyclopedias and then instant knowledge at your fingertips.
Isn't that wild that like, our generation, Don, like, we are legit in the middle between the old ways
Hmm.
and the new ways. And that blows my mind.
I feel the same way you do, and I don't think that, based on what you just said, and it's something I think about a lot, I don't think that it's a coincidence that the mass awakening that's happening
Mm.
is our generation because we've
Yeah.
seen both sides of it, right? We've
Yes.
seen we've seen the like purity of not knowing everybody's thoughts at every moment, and also the other side of that limitless knowledge that's accessible at any time.
Right.
And so I don't think that that's a coincidence that this like awakening that's happening is happening with elder millennials.
Right. No, that's a great point. That's a great point. Yeah. That's a lot to think about. But
Yeah, it really is. I
I
mean,
think about it all the time because, we grew up when computers were just starting to come out into school, and now
yeah,
they're the norm. Like they get computers at school instead of books.
yeah,
It's
I
wild to
know.
me.
Yeah, it is crazy. Like you at the beginning of the year you get handed a Chromebook or something, and it's you think about it and you laugh when your teachers are like, "You're not gonna have a calculator at your disposal." It's like,
Right.
yeah, I have like a TI-83 or something at my disposal all the time.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh my God. Yes.
uh,
We're a special generation, we millennials. I really think we
yeah,
are.
yeah, I think so too because I mean, there's part of me that jokes and says, "Oh, I think humanity really peaked in like late 2000s, early 2000s." I mean, I'm kind of kidding, but maybe not. But
Yeah.
like really like I don't know, it's been a wild ride ever since then. And I
Yeah,
don't know
it
if that's
sure
because you're
has.
an adult now and life looks different as far as responsibility goes, but
Right.
man, I don't know. I it feels there's been some really dense energy in the
Oh my
last
God.
15 years, I would
Yeah.
say anyway.
You're so right. And I'd say within the past year or so too, in the year and a half,
Mhm.
it's been
Oh,
it's been heavy for sure.
it
It,
is, and it's one of those things where you try so hard not to feel like completely overwhelmed
hmm
or hopeless or and I listen to a lot of um content and I watch a lot of content, but like one that uh I eagerly always await is Mallory Shannon, and
mm,
she is a spiritualist, a past life regressionist, a hypnotherapist. Anyway,
yep.
she
Yep.
talks all the time about the heavy energy and how it's necessary for basically transcending through, to the next level. Like we're kind of like, I don't
Yep.
know, I guess part of me in my mind sort of like imagines it like the gauntlet, like right before you hit the prize, I guess,
Yes.
because it's, we've got to move through this stuff and it's just like I just remind myself like there's something better on the other side of this. There is.
Absolutely. And one thing that I have been thinking, one quote that keeps coming up to me because and we've talked about it, you, me, Kristen, and other friends about how heavy it's been. But I was driving in my car the other day, no music on. I just had a silent ride into work, and it was beautiful. But one quote that kept coming through to me is, if you're going through hell, keep going, and that's Winston
Mm,
Churchill, and that
mm-hmm.
is such an amazing quote. I know it was for wartime, but I think it could be used in everyday life. Certainly when you're going through a difficult time or trying to work through some heavy shit, heavy energy, like you said, the prize is on the other side of that. So if it's tough, just keep going as hard as it is. Don't give
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean it's really easy to get weighed down, just like feel
hmm
like you've got an anchor around your ankle, and it's it's hard to some days it's just like you have to just like be okay with that sometimes and give yourself that space to rest because I
Yeah.
think people who are ultra awakened and aware are really, I mean, it's heavy for us and it's so easy to just get really in it and not be able to see the really great things about what is happening. And
Yeah.
it's okay to like just say, you know what? I'm not leaving the house today. I'm just
hmm
gonna go sit on my lawn and watch the turkeys or whatever, because I mean, I live in New England and have an 8-acre property that's like a wildlife preserve practically. So it's
it
just like at a
is.
given moment I can look out there and just see any animal and think like they have no idea like any of this is happening, right? And
Right.
it's
And
just like give yourself a break. It's totally okay.
yes. Yeah. And you need that mental calmness just to make it through to the next day because, yeah, it's heavy shit out there sometimes.
It
Definitely.
is. It totally is. And it's like, you see it day in and day out on the news and in social media and it's
hmm
just like my husband again, well, he talks a lot about how, he reads like every scientific thing he can find, and his brain just processes everything so fast that I'm like, I love it. It's like I have my own Discovery Channel at home. Um, and he was talking about how there are scientific studies that say that humanity is literally splitting. Like there is an evolution happening in humanity where like it is actually breaking into two. And I think if you look around, I'm not sure that that evidence has ever been more clear.
Mm.
I mean, there's some pretty clear lines in humanity's beliefs right now.
Yeah.
I'm not even talking like politics, like because so much of what's become political isn't even politics, but we've made it politics.
Yeah.
But like really like human rights and you know like what's acceptable and
Yes.
just it's and it's not like you can even it's not like somebody who has the opposite beliefs as me is ever going to come to me in any way going to make like they might as well be speaking Greek to me because I'm like, what are you talking about? Like that is wild. Absolutely not. There's no way I'm going to believe that.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's crazy that to watch it in real time happening right now. Like I think there's so much happening in real time right now that we're all just going, wow, like
Hmm.
that's, I mean, whether we're watching what we believe to be fascism unfold again in our own country or, just like the stuff you read about or
Yeah.
the things you think will never happen. And you're
Yeah.
just like, wow, it's actually happening.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of wild. And now what am I going to do? Like, man, I just really wasn't, I just kind of wanted to watch like the next episode of like Only Murders in the Building or something. But now I guess I got to think about this.
Yeah, it's crazy out there, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So what were some obstacles? So you found your path that you're on. What were some unexpected obstacles that you ran into that you weren't expecting?
Hmm. I mean, I think that's really hard to say. I mean, I think because I have no expectation, like you and I have talked about this many times, like
Yeah.
with, when I talk about tarot or what have you, like I don't ever have questions. Like I have this mindset that I almost feel like isn't normal. Like I have no questions. I have no expectations of things. I'm kind of like this blank slate of like I live in the moment. And I mean, if you were to ask me like what my 5-year goal is, like I'm not even sure I could like I might be able to come up with something, but it's just one
Yeah.
of those things that like obstacles for me, I guess, are like things that happen in the real world that, you
Hmm.
know, um, like having my son very unexpectedly, like, and like, I mean, I do mean unexpectedly, like his father didn't think he could have kids and I was on birth control. Like I have never met a soul more determined to be
Mm.
on this planet. Um, and so, that was a pretty big, I wouldn't say obstacle, but it was definitely something that like changed the direction of my life.
Hmm.
Or like, when the housing market crashed twice in 2 years, I lost my job twice, because marketing's always the first thing to go. So like the real world stuff is the stuff that I guess maybe pauses you or like sends me in another direction. But like, I don't know. I always feel like I go into things with no expectation and just
Mm.
a really open mind and a kind of a pure like look at it as far as maybe this thing will work for me, maybe it won't. And I mean, I can't count the number of guests that you've had that because I'm no different that, we want to know everything about everything. Like we
Yes.
want to do tarot, we want to do
Same.
astrology, we want to do, like we want to
Yeah.
know everything because it's like I just always, oh God, when people ask me about my beliefs or any of that. All that comes to mind is that super famous meme of Charlie Day with like the board with all of like the red strings and like just it's just like there it's like pyramids and spaceships and like
Yes.
the Bible is just like it's the craziest thing ever. I mean, the most out of pocket thing I'll probably ever say is that I think Jesus was an alien. I mean, and I don't think I'm wrong. I mean, there's no reason he couldn't be. And we just didn't understand. I mean, Ancient Aliens is also like people laugh, but I mean, that's been a huge influence in my belief systems. And
Yeah.
just because it's like there's a lot of like real knowledge there. And so, you know, I don't know. I can't think of obstacles necessarily. It's just
Yeah.
more like a, if you kind of like, or you think of like the old school cartoons when the guy's out there performing and then they like send the hook out and yank him off the stage, like that kind of feels like I get pulled in a lot of directions and,
Yeah.
I lose focus. And so I have dozens of books on like everything.
You're
And I'm
eclectic,
just like,
Dawn. Love it.
I'm like, boy, we could use another lockdown. No, I'm kidding. So I can get through all
Give you
this
time to
content.
read.
Right? So
Where am I
yeah.
going next?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
You
what
know,
thing am I
and
gonna unlock?
yeah, and you bring up a great point about Ancient Aliens because I also love that show. We've talked about it. Love Ancient Aliens.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so funny that you say that because, in that show you can see how connected
Mm-hmm.
our planet
All the religion.
is.
Yeah.
It's it's crazy how they connect, other pyramids in other countries. It's just
Mm-hmm.
you can see
Mm-hmm.
where we were all connected at one time, and it's
Mm-hmm.
sad that we've lost that connectedness. But not totally, obviously, because a lot of us are still connected in some way, and we realize our connection, you know. But one day, hopefully, we can get back to that, coming back to whatever it was that connected those, the countries together, like Peru and Egypt and
Mm-hmm.
wherever
Yeah.
they found pyramids. Just as an example, obviously there's other mounds that they've found, in
Mm-hmm.
like Scotland and, even here in the United States, there's burial mounds that they have found
Yeah.
that are similar to ones over in the UK. And, it's just wild to me that at some point in time, we have lost that connection and we are all separate more than ever.
Mm-hmm.
And that blows my mind. I hope all of that rant just made sense. I hope that
No,
made
it totally does.
sense.
I mean, like we're in a time where we're the most connected we've ever known, at least in our civilization,
Right.
and yet somehow we're more disconnected, right? Because I mean, the
Hmm.
things you're talking about are like you watch that show long enough, or you do any kind of research, and I mean, you find that these ancient civilizations had almost essentially the same artwork depicting the same gods, and the
Yeah.
gods had like a name that was a syllable different. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
this was before there was like cross ocean travel. Like,
Yes.
how is that possible? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, literally think about that. That's how crazy, like, that, which is like why to me, when anybody gets into talking about spirituality or religion, it's just like I mean, the graphic designer in me is going to say it's like the same story in a different font, right? Like,
Yes. I get it.
everybody's got, their version of it, but we're kind of all saying the same thing here.
Right.
And that's maybe one of the most wild parts of it is that like, like I said, we've never been more connected, and yet somehow we're further apart
Yes.
um, than ever, and it's sad. And I hope that I keep feeling like we're on this precipice of like something really cool, and I just keep hoping that like this object coming through our solar system in November is like gonna be a really cool alien that's just like, all right, the social experiment is over. You guys need a little bit of recalibration. You've kind of gone uh, off in the wrong direction here. Um,
You're off the rails. Time to get back on.
yeah, yeah, and just maybe kind of put us in timeout a little bit.
Yep.
Because I truly, sincerely believe. I mean, obviously, I talk about it all the time, but like, aliens are absolutely real, and
Mm.
I personally believe I have connections, my own soul, to like the Pleiades, um, and I just really don't. All of the things that I have learned, there's no part of me that believes that for the most part they're not benevolent. Like there are certain races, like in anything that
Yeah.
seem more brutal or more harsh. But I mean, if you look at that in nature, that's no different than like, a mountain lion and a house cat, right?
Right.
Like, there's certain, they talk about the grays and they talk about, the mantids and those kinds of things. Like, it's not necessarily that they're not benevolent, but that's not their first nature, or whatever. But I really do think that overall, any foreign entity is really trying to help us. I really think they're trying to help us out, and maybe we're just like really stubborn.
Yeah.
There might be a bigger reveal happening. I mean, we've gotten to the point in society now where you talk about aliens and almost nobody thinks you're weird for it anymore.
Exactly, right? And I think, because it's been so exposed now and people are more open to that information, and I just listened to an episode on psychic teachers and they talked about alien abductions or alien encounters, and I love that shit too. And I've seen it on not Ancient Aliens, but another show I watched. But there's two gentlemen, I think, in Louisiana, I think it was, where they were abducted off a fishing pier. And that's such a crazy story because they were secretly taped when they went to the cops, when they went to the sheriff's office. And they were frightened talking to each other. And you don't get any more legit than being secretly recorded and you're talking about what just happened very openly, very candidly with the person that just experienced that with you. So I'm so on board with, we're not alone. It's not plausible to me in this entire universe that we are the only inhabitants of this thing we call the universe.
No, I mean, my husband says all the time, life isn't special in the sense that it's like, it's rampant out there. I mean, we've found it on comets coming through. It's microbial, but that's the foundation, right? Like that's what you need is that kind of stuff. And so it's just that one creator, that one connectedness, and it's like whether that lives in your head like some old man with a long white beard or just I mean, like I said, it's the same story in a different font. Where, and I think the thing that to me is just like being able to be tolerant of other people, kind of having their version of that story and not, necessarily forcing it on them. I mean, I think I struggle with organized religion because there is so much of it where like organized religion has caused more harm in this world because people fight about it.
Right.
And versus just like saying, maybe we believe that differently or what have you. I mean, that's everybody trying to force their will on other people is what really does the damage. And
yes, that's a great point.
It's sad. It's really sad to me because in theory, right? Like we all have the same goals here. Like,
yeah, we're all trying to create life and live it while we can and be happy.
Yeah. And be connected to that higher thing. Right.
Yes.
And just, I don't know. Like I said, I think it's not taught a lot in those more organized religions to look inward, because there is that heavy emphasis on the big G God, being the authority. But yeah, I didn't really expect to talk so much about that religion part of this, but like kind of just where my brain went, I guess.
That's okay. That's what we're here for. Wherever the road takes us, that's where we're going.
Yeah. Well, and, like I said, if it's just one of those things where, you can even get one person to think just a little differently and not change, but just say, oh yeah, you know what? Like, that's fine that they don't believe the same things I do. We're kind of talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
Creating that, because I think that's something that we really need right now in the space that we're living in is like community and just like kindness for each other.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with that. So with that being said, I'm going to segue into books because we were talking about, like you brought up past life and, aliens. What are some books or podcasts that you're into that you would suggest?
So I really like I said, Past Life Regression podcast with Mallory Shannon. I also listen to the White Witch podcast, which very excited for your relationship there with Carly and your own interviews with her. And she's got some really great content, as well as that's just been, just a nice breath of fresh air where you kind of cut through a lot of that. I mean, everybody's kind of got their own like hustle right now with spirituality and it's just a lot to consume. And I think she has some just really nice, like clean, like, info out there that you can just kind of take in really, really nicely. There's actually a documentary called, I watch a lot of documentaries. Like
Wow.
I don't do TV shows really,
Yeah.
unless it's something my husband wants to watch, because like I'm just super into documentaries. But like there's one called Emotion. It's like, again, you'll have it in the show notes, but it's on the Gaia Network, which is part of Amazon. But it was like transformative for me. And I still watch it anytime I'm feeling like maybe I've changed, like I've gone to a new phase in my life,
Mm-hmm.
to really view it from the newest place I'm at. That was really, really transformative for me.
Okay.
I love Ram Dass, like Becoming Nobody. Um, a book that I read recently, which actually changed a lot of my practices, two books, was The Cauldron and the Drum,
Mm-hmm.
by Rhonda McCrimmon. Sorry, I'm probably butchering that. But it's all about like Celtic shamanism, because I'm like 48% Irish. And I was really at a place after reading this book called White Women
Mm-hmm.
by Regina Jackson and Syra Rao. Um, it's all about systemic white supremacy, which you're raised into without having a choice. And how do you unpack that? And there was so much that they talk about with like cultural appropriation and like the use of like so many tools that are for different religions that you're actually not really a part of. Like everybody's got a Buddha. Like, do you know anything about how it's supposed to be faced as far as directionally? And so it was really eye opening for me, because I felt like I had a lot of these practices that felt like almost fraudulent for me because they were not mine.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found this book, The Cauldron and the Drum, which felt very connective for me. And I learned about, using smoke cleansing of juniper instead of sage, or, different stuff that really connected to my own heritage that
Yep.
was, that Celtic piece. So that was really great. Highly recommend that if you're somebody who is Irish of descent. Um, so yeah, that's oh God, another one that was so good was, it's called Sensitive. It's again on that Gaia Network, and it's got Alanis Morissette in it. But she talks about being a highly sensitive person, which is actually like a diagnosed thing. And it makes so much sense to me. Like I cried when I started watching it, because it was the first time I felt really seen. Like I
Mm.
felt like not crazy,
Yeah.
which she talks about in it, and like feeling crazy for just like, I am somebody who feels everything. I mean, I am an empath, and I know everybody says that they're an empath, and I'm sure that, anybody who's on this journey is empathic, because
Yeah.
that's what it's about, is tuning in. But like, I literally feel everything. Like I can feel when energy's off before I enter a room, like with a person.
Yep.
My son, I would say to him, like, I know what you feel. And he's like, no, you don't. And I said, I feel it. I can feel exactly what you're feeling without him saying anything. And it's so overwhelming to live in this world right now,
Yeah.
and feel that. But that was something that was really amazing. That Sensitive documentary just really made me feel not so alone and not insane,
Yeah.
which is a big thing. I mean, when you're on this journey, there are so many points in time where people look at you and you're just like,
Yes.
I know I sound wild right now. Okay. I know it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
Right.
not here to try to pretend I don't sound like I'm insane, but I'm not.
Yes. Truly, I'm not. I promise. Yeah. It can
Yeah.
be. It can be a little isolating sometimes. That's very true.
Hmm. Yeah. I
That's a
mean,
good
it can
point.
be very isolating,
Mm-hmm.
especially, I'm super fortunate in that I'm surrounded by, and I mean, some of it was strategic. Like, I definitely have removed people from my life who, um, were unhealthy for me, but I'm very fortunate that like my family,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of like eye rolling, or like, kind of like talking about it when I'm not around, but not like in a malicious way. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a weirdo. Like, I am the family weirdo.
We
But
love
I think,
weirdos here.
yeah, but I think, they're all supportive, at least to my face, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't really think that they talk badly about me. I definitely know that like I sound crazy to anybody who hasn't fallen into these rabbit holes, but I think I'm very fortunate that I have a really supportive unit of people around me
You
that
do.
helps
Yes.
me feel. Yeah, I mean, even the people I work with, like one day, one of my coworkers came in and I was like pulling tarot cards, and he is like, I mean this in the kindest way, like the most vanilla man you will ever meet in your life. Like, he is your quintessential dad of three girls, right? And like I'm pulling a car and he just looks at me and like backs out of the door slowly. Like
He's like,
I'm
I'm gonna
not
leave
like
you to it.
conjuring something over here. I'm just trying to find out how my day's gonna go.
I'll leave you alone now.
Yep. Just like it's fine, you can come in.
I love that.
Yep.
That's funny. Oh,
Yep.
love
Yeah.
that. I was gonna ask you, and it just went right out the window. Huh? All right. Well, that one passed. I guess if it comes back, we'll bring it up.
Yeah.
Question. Now it's gone.
Yep.
I'm interested, Dawn. You're into past life. What? Because I love past life, so I kind of want to touch on this for just a minute because I know that you have one coming up, and I'm so excited
I'm so
for you.
excited.
I can't wait to hear all about it. What got you into that? Or if we can just talk star seeds for a second, because I want to bring that up, if you don't mind. If you're cool with it.
Yeah.
What got you into like star seeds and past life regression? What drew you into that, into those topics?
So that for me really had to do, so Mallory's actually the one who's going to do it, the one that I've referenced her podcast a couple times.
Yeah.
And I've listened to her stuff and I started to understand more about soul contracts. And, like this is like a two-part question that kind of goes in two different directions. So like the part with the past life regression, really some of that has to do with understanding my soul contract with my son. Because, she talks about like every person who's in your life, like you get together before you come down here. And this is where I start to like talk about it. And I'm like, yep, I sound insane. But you get together with the souls, right, around you. And you're like, this is the life I'm going to choose. And sometimes and it could entail a lot of traumatic events because you want to fully experience this human experience and understand how to move through that and grow through that. And so, that dark place that I was for 3 years after learning I couldn't have another child with my husband, was part of what put me on this path because like I am obsessed with my kid, like helicopter mom, like definition, my picture. And my kid's like almost 20 now. So it's, that kid has had a heavy cross to bear and he is such a good sport about being my kid. But like, honest to God, I mean, that's what really was me trying to understand the soul contract that I have with my son, because it's just it's like, he literally feels like part of me. And it's like, the pain, like I love him so much, it's physically painful, and understanding what that meant in this life and why I chose that.
Yeah.
But also, like I said, like I am somebody who looks at the stars and, my husband, again, will look at the stars and he has this very analytical view of it. And he'll say, it just makes you realize how small we are. And I thought, I have never thought that, never once. I look at the stars and I feel I have never felt more whole, more part of something, more like this is part of my soul. And like, there's just something. The Pleiades is one that, I literally look at it and it feels like I'm looking at a picture of home.
Yeah.
Or like I look up at the stars and I can always find it. And it's just one of those things like, I don't know, there's a knowing. There is a knowing that happens, I think, with these things. And so trying to understand that is what's like put me into this past life regression interest, as far as trying to understand, like, I don't know, maybe like a little bit nerdy, like, all right, what did I come here to learn and how do I ace the test, right? Like, kind of tight. Right now I'm like I just really do not want to reincarnate here again. I'm kind of over this. And like, how do I make sure that I don't come back again? Like, I joke all the time that I'm like an old soul, and I was like, man, I'm getting too old for this.
No, thank you for the next time around. I'll pass.
Like I've learned some good lessons. Like, what's the next thing that I can do? Because like this is, I'm starting to feel like, like Peyton Manning in the last year of his career here. A little football reference for anybody. But yeah, it's starting to feel like, I would like to do the next thing and maybe not do this again. So how do I ace that test and maybe go home?
Maybe you'll be a guide for somebody next time around, Dawn. I think you'd be an amazing guide.
Yeah, I mean, I would love that. I mean, it's like part of, um, it's part of like who I am naturally. I mean, I joke all the time about being a Leo, and it's so funny. Like Leos, I mean, I know you're a Leo, but Leo,
Leos.
we carry around like, I don't know, at least I did, low key, like a lot of shame about like our persona, right? Like how
Yeah.
we're prideful and we're, all of these things, but like in the best ways, right? Like I own
Yeah.
that completely now. Like I am a natural born leader and
Yeah.
I know that I am and I'm, told that all the time at work. And, I in a group of people will automatically end up the leader of that group.
Yeah.
It's just who I am and that's a Leo trait. And, I started leaning into it and I joke like I'm like whenever I speak at, an event or something like that, I'll be like, I'm a Leo. I can talk about myself all day, like, but let's talk about you. Like, leaning into that like personhood of who you are. And so I think again, really understanding more about this person that I have chosen
Yeah.
in my higher self to be. And I think that past life regression this is one thing that I do like really open. I don't have a lot of expectations about a lot of things. This one I'm like, like no whammies, like give me the answer. I need some information here. So no pressure, Mallory, if you hear this.
I
But
love
so
it.
excited for that.
I'm excited for you. When you told us that you had the appointment all set up, I was jumping up for joy because I know how excited you were for it, and I can't wait to hear about it. It's
Yeah,
going to
I
be so
mean,
awesome.
it's in early December. And I'd love to come back and talk about the experience
Oh, I love that.
afterwards, for
Let's
anybody
have a
who's
follow up.
interested. Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, I'm just like dying to share whatever it is that I find out because
Oh my God.
I think this is how
Yeah,
we share information, right? Like, is
that's right.
understanding like how other people got where they're going. I mean, God bless Lisa for sharing what she shared with me, back in 2020 because it's changed my life. And that I don't believe is a coincidence, right? Like, there was a
Yeah.
soul contract that happened with Lisa to
Yeah.
help me on this path. So I think I'm excited. And then the starseed thing, like I said, it's just one of those things. Like I think there's a knowing that happens with people when you like look up at the stars and you're just like, that's home. Like I look at the sky and I think I just want to go home some days. And
Yeah.
I don't mean that like morbidly in any way. It's like you're homesick,
Yeah.
literally.
I get it. I
Yeah.
had and I'll share this with you. I don't think I ever told our friend group, you, me, and Kristen. I don't think I ever told you, but I had a star seed reading done. I don't know, like last year or something. I don't know. It just never came up. I guess I have no
Hmm.
idea, but I would love to share it because it's very detailed. It was a
Mm.
guy that I saw on the TikToks, and he's
Oh,
legit. Yeah, he's legit. It was really in depth, and he talks about your name, and I'll send it to you.
yeah,
I
I'd
just
love
keep
that.
forgetting to send it over. I'll put it in our chat, and I'll put it in the show notes. He's out of Australia.
Oh,
I
cool.
forget what his name is, but it's really in depth. Like it's, I think mine is 11 pages long,
Holy smokes.
and he
Wow.
sends it to you in a reading. So he needs your, similar to a birth chart. He
Yep.
needs your name, your date of birth, when you were, where you were born, your time
Oh,
and
I would
year.
love that.
It's really cool. I'll put it in the show notes too, so other people can check it out. But I think that you would really enjoy that. So I'll
Definitely.
send it over.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Yeah, you definitely never mentioned that. I'm so
I
surprised.
know. I don't know. I guess I dropped the ball on that one. I kept it in my back pocket. I guess I have it in my email, and
Huh,
I haven't, honestly, I haven't looked at it in a long time, and I just thought about it right now as we were talking about that. So
huh.
I'll send it over, and we can all check it out together. But what, since we're talking about how Lisa helped you out, what would be some advice that you would give to someone that is looking to go deeper into their spiritual practice?
I
What's
think
worked for you?
I think just finding people who are aligned with the things that you're interested in knowing about, right? Like, I love that I've become this weird friend for the people in my life who want to learn more, right? Like about it, and they're like, I got to ask somebody something and I feel so crazy. And I was like, yes, yes, please bring it to me. Right. So find the people like that, that you feel you can trust or are aligned with the things that you want to know more about because it helps, like I said, to be in community with people you know, you and me and Kristen and Faye and Danny and, you know, like these are all like names that are coming up in your podcast, people,
Yeah.
and there's a reason for that, right?
Yep.
Um, you know, like Danny is somebody that I've known for a long time, but like not only surfacely, right?
Right.
And she's like she kind of entered my life at a she had an entry point into my life that was like very special as far as like what I needed in that moment, right? So I think that is maybe one of the top things that I will ever tell anybody is just find somebody who is like-minded or in the mind of what you are hoping to attain or learn, and trust your gut. Like I am one of those people who like my gut will tell me things, and it is the truest
Yes.
compass you will ever have. And
Hmm.
you know, I mean, like I said, spiritual practice looks so different for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Like some people like meditation is like the thing, and like I said, I end up asleep. um, you know, and like
Yeah.
tarot is the thing for some people, and then there's definitely moments in my life where tarot is something that guides me, and it's just I think having your eyes open to all of the possibility and using the tools, right? Because like meditation is a tool, and so is tarot, and so is astrology, and you know, all of these things are tools, and picking the tool that's right for the moment.
Yes.
What feels right for the moment. Like maybe I need to go meditate on that thing, or maybe I need to pull a card and just be like, oh wow, you know what I mean? Like we could talk all day about the cool things that have happened with us in like our, you know, 12 magical nights
Yep.
card pulls and
Hmm.
how wild and accurate that all is and prophetic, and like our friend Jonathan would say, it's like this shit is real.
Yep.
You know?
Jonathan. I would love having
Yeah.
him.
He's such a bright light.
He is.
Um, but I mean, I guess that's maybe my biggest thing is like find people who are like minded and follow your gut, and then just use the tools that feel right for the job, right? Like you
Yeah.
wouldn't use a butter knife to cut down a tree, so go
Right.
get the chainsaw if you need it, you know?
I love that. Yes, I love that analogy. That's so great. Well, thank you, Dawn, so much for coming on. This has been a great conversation. I've had a
Yeah,
lot of
it's really
fun.
gone a lot of directions.
I
we
know. We
we've
went
covered a
down
lot of
some,
ground.
yeah, we went down some paths. I loved it. Thank you so much.
Of course, yeah.
Oh my God.
Um, I want
Yes.
to just say, because I'm having listened to your show, know where you're headed with the next question is like, how do people contact me if they're
Yes.
interested in, you know,
Hmm.
finding another like-minded person or somebody who might be a resource? So, brand new information as of the last couple days. I am starting sort of a mentoring, coaching, leadership that's professional and spiritual, depending on what your needs are.
Yeah.
It's called Solus and Co. So Solus is an Irish Gaelic word for light, which my friend Lisa told me I was a light worker, so it felt very relevant and special. And so you can find Solus and Co. on Facebook and on Instagram, and the email is solusandco@gmail.com. And yeah, I mean, I love crazy stories, and especially when they're not crazy, it's just you finding your way. So, like,
Yeah.
please reach out.
Oh my God, I love this so much, Dawn. Oh my God, I'm so proud of you. That's so awesome. Yes. Let's
Yeah,
follow Dawn.
I'm
Let's
excited.
let's reach out to her. I love
Yeah,
that
tell
so
me your
much.
stories. I'm here for it. Like, I'm like
Yeah,
the most supportive weirdo you'll ever meet.
she really is. And she has good mama energy, everybody.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, my kid would love for me to give that mom energy to somebody else now. So I'm here for you.
She has to let it out somewhere.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, well, thank you, Dawn, so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And, you know, I look forward to following up after Mallory's worked her
Yes,
magic.
definitely. I would
Cool.
love that.
Yeah, that'll be
All
fun.
right. Yes. All right. Take care.
You too. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Thanks for coming along for the ride, travelers. If you're enjoying the show, please share, like, or leave a review wherever you listen to your podcast. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram, or come join me over on Patreon, where you'll get show updates and have early access to new episodes every Thursday. You can also find me on Buy Me a Coffee. If you have ideas for the show or would like to say hello, you can email me at spiritualrootspodcast@gmail.com. Please keep sharing the show so we can keep finding our spiritual roots together.